Hey folks, a couple of minutes for me. I'm not supposed to be here, but obviously I am. Teresa had asked me to speak, but I was supposed to be at another conference, a conference actually where Drew and I met a couple of years ago, and I decided I wasn't going to go, and she found out, and she said, well, then you've got to come, and if you come, you have to talk. And so I get the honor of a few minutes of talking to you about some random things, but most importantly, then introducing our keynote speaker that I had recommended to Teresa, saying, I would love for this guy to speak in my stead. And I couldn't be more delighted that I'm going to get a chance to introduce Kemayala in just a few minutes. First, I got an email at midnight last night from Kathy Bates saying, good luck, and don't you dare forget to give my love to Drew and my buddy Sumner. So Drew and Dr. Slavin, Kathy Bates, feel the love. I look around the room, and for me, you look for themes, and this is the room of champions. There are several that you already know that are very obvious. I mean, certainly two of them are sitting over here, Kathy Holly and Lisa Palin, on so many levels, organizing this conference, what they have done with the LE&RN chapter. It is such a model for us as we've started this up, grassroots ourselves, trying to figure out how to do this, to engage people, how they have shown us how a chapter can become very dynamic. Along with that, Veronica Seneriz, who's our chapter chair in Texas, absolutely dynamic, a whole different way of approaching it, but brilliant and bringing people together. Emma Detlefson, Emma, would you stand up just a bit? Learn from this person. Emma is a youth ambassador in New York State, but beyond that, she has been to every lobby day, she has met with every legislator, she's in Albany every year, she fights for every bill. When she was 8 years old, she was able to get up and give a speech at one of our walks that she wrote herself. Extraordinarily dynamic. These are the people that are going to win this battle. You can all learn a lesson from Emma, and I guess I should mention her mom too, Tiffany. I guess she has something to do with it. We're sitting with her. As I mentioned, it was 2 years ago that I met Dr. Singhal at a conference. And in the midst of us just meeting each other and talking, I mentioned the whole idea of centers of excellence and something to learn, would love to do at some point. Fast forward, we decided to collaborate with them on the first symposium. He mentioned the idea of centers of excellence to Dr. Slavin. Dr. Slavin got up at the symposium and said, and Harvard's going to be LE&RN's first center of excellence, which immediately led to the consternation of several other institutions who said, what about us? What happened as a result of that kind of error was that Stanford, USC, University of Texas, Memorial Sloan Kettering, University of Chicago all ended up gathering together with us with Harvard to create a committee to establish standards for centers of excellence. We have now established those. We've established those. We sent out for letters of inquiry. We decided, let's make it international, because so that there was no bias, I went ahead and created an oversight committee, an international oversight committee of those that were not applying for this to review the final applications. I thought maybe we'll get 6, 8. We got 40 applications from around the world, not only from the United States, but from Australia, from Germany, from Italy, Sweden, Great Britain, etc. This is extraordinarily dynamic. Case in point, why do we need these? 2 emails I got yesterday. I don't have to go way back in my history to come up with these examples. 2 emails, one from a 16-year-old in Portland. She writes and says, I come from a family where my father is homeless, he's abusive, and we finally had to get him out of the house. We are very poor. We finally put together enough money to fly my mother to Southern California to an institution for her lymphedema. She went to the institution. They said, you weigh 220 pounds. When you lose 100 pounds, come back. That was it. We got another email the same day from a young girl telling us an elaborate story about her mother and her suffering. And I wrote back and said, okay, and where are you? She was in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. We are winning the communication battle, but we have to win the activism battle at this point. I use quite often the AIDS epidemic, an example for us to learn from. Now let's remember what the slogan was for the AIDS epidemic. Silence equals death. Pretty compelling. You're either an activist or you're part of the death machine. That's it. There was no in between. Now, every movement isn't identical to the other, but I would say this to me comes across as something that is pretty identical. Pete Staley is somebody I knew back in the 80s. I was producing theater and I produced 4 plays that revolved around the AIDS epidemic off Broadway at that time. And he was a head of ACT UP, organization really fighting for the AIDS movement. And one of the things Peter had done, because pharmaceutical companies weren't moving fast enough as far as being financed to create new drugs, he went to the stock exchange and he chained himself to the balcony of the stock exchange to make a point. A couple of days ago, there was an episode of Pose, which some of you may have seen is on TV right now, a Ryan Murphy show. And at the very end of it, they put up a quote from Pete Staley. See if you can relate to this. I think it is a great way to live, to fight for yourself, to fight for your friends, to fight for a better community of individuals who are sharing your experience to fight for dignity and a better life. And there will be a tipping point. There will be victories, and they will be joyous. Wow. That's you. Those are your victories. You are at that tipping point, but now it's up to you to take it to the next step. I'm here to introduce that next step. In the midst of us going through media, we had seen an article about Cam Ayala. He was going on The Bachelorette, and in the midst of the article, it mentioned he had lymphedema. We contacted Cam through our social media. He immediately responded back to us and jumped on board. When I had Kathy Bates speak down at Dallas at the American Breast Surgeons Conference, she keynoted it. Cam came down, met her, listened to the speech, met people. I asked Cam to be on a panel then at the Lymphatic Forum, 200 researchers. Cam was there. Dr. Roxon went ahead and moderated. Cam was so brilliant with the young kid who was there, and immediately afterwards went and worked at a camp, which was exclusively for children who had lymphedema. Since then, Cam has made himself available in a myriad of ways to fight this battle. And in November, I will have him speaking as well at the American Venous Lymphatic Society meeting, which will be in Phoenix. He is here to stay. And I'm just the navigator. I have my time here, then I move on to something else. That's not the case with the rest of you. You're in here for the long haul. We had our walk out in California a couple of months ago, and Dr. Emily Eicher, who co-wrote the book with Chuck here on nutrition, is our chapter chair out there. And she was introducing me to speak. And she said, and I want now to introduce Moses. And I cringed. It was like, you appreciate the love of people. But now I sit here today and say, you know what? I'm thinking about that. I appreciate that. Moses, that's pretty good. Moses' job was to bring the chosen people to the promised land. Moses never gets to the promised land. He just gets to the River Jordan. It's somebody else's responsibility then to get to the promised land. This is the person who's going to help you get to the promised land, along with you. But with that, I introduce Cam Ayala. Thanks, Cam.